hear me? Can you see me? Wonderful.
Yes.
I will take it as a yes. Greetings, everyone, all the way from Washington, D.C. So, as it was mentioned, my name is Osetrova. I'm pursuing my graduate studies at the Institute of World Politics, focusing on statecraft and international affairs. It is actually my second year participating in this fantastic conference, and I want to express my biggest words of gratitude for the organizers of this event. Most special one to me, Camila Tran, for giving me the opportunity to join you all virtually today. And Artyom, большое спасибо for helping me set up this afternoon. And everyone, thank you for collecting this community to promote the initiative of Ethereum and decentralized platforms in this day and age. I'm currently, a little bit about myself, I'm currently serving IWP as the internships programs coordinator and working in this role, interacting with so many students of different research interests, combined with such a rich variety of classes on security studies, definitely helped me accumulate more knowledge and understanding of such important matter that we're facing today globally, which is the rise of legalization of total control of the digital world. And now a little bit about the Institute. So what distinguishes the Institute of World Politics is its emphasis on practical knowledge on diplomacy, intelligence, cybersecurity, political risk, and strategic communication. Master's, doctoral, PhD, certificate programs are designed to equip students with comprehensive understanding of what constitutes statecraft that governments implement on the international arena. It is specifically in this kind of environment that my own research interest in digital control systems got to evolve even further. Surrounded by peers researching everything from cybersecurity to matters of civil resistance, I had this growing concern and research focus that many of us share, regardless of nationality and political background. The rise of what I called a few years ago in my research as digital dictatorship. And this term I attribute to the increased use of digital technologies, which involves surveillance system, artificial intelligence, data analytics, both by state and non-state actors to monitor, shape, and even suppress human behavior. So what began as innovation in some capacity has also become the infrastructure of control. And as we'll explore today, the topic, this is not just a theoretical issue, it is a human one. And it challenges us to ask how can technology serve society without undermining dignity, freedom, and privacy of the individuals within it? So, and now by sharing the screen, let me let me present the presentation. Can everyone see this? Please give me some hint. I take it as a yes. It probably is. Today, we'll explore the topic of digital dictatorship through such components as law, power, and full spectrum conflict. So, we often assume that authoritarian governance is something distant, confined to regimes like China. But the reality, however, is much broader. Digital dictatorship is the phenomenon that is being quietly normalized across many governments around the world, including those that are considered democratic. By regulating what people see, what they can say, increasingly what they're even encouraged to feel and think, power is projected today not as much as through armies, although, yes, it is still the case, but also through algorithms and laws. China's legal codification of control and its strategic fusion of corporate and state power gives us the clearest model of how digital dictatorship operates in practice. Let's break down how the system actually functions in daily life because it's not a single platform or a database. Social credit system of China is a networked architecture that pulls data from multiple sources, such as banking records, online behavior, government databases, and even social connections. The system works by assigning individuals and companies the dynamic score and based on behaviors deemed either trustworthy or untrustworthy by the state. For example, paying bills on time, volunteering, visiting your grandparents, and the often cited example, buying diapers might increase your social score. And on the contrary, jaywalking, criticizing state policy, or even buying way too many video games associating with people of low scores might decrease it. But what makes it so powerful is that punishment is often algorithmic, automatic, and irreversible. And forget about the due process or appeals to court. The social credit system is about compliance. It rewards behavior that aligns with parties' interests and punishes nonconformity, not just politically, but also socially and economically. The system of digital control of China is not a shadowy network or informal pressure campaign. It is, in fact, enshrined in law, which not only regulates cyberspace but redesigns the relationship between the state, the individual, and the information ecosystem of all of it. So we'll now look at some Chinese laws and their alternatives in the US legal space. Three of them. First one being 2017 National Intelligence Law that states that all organizations, citizens, shall support, assist, and cooperate in national intelligence effort. So everyone essentially needs to pass it on to the government. And remember, there are many private firms that specialize on many different businesses, and they tend to keep very well-rounded information on people. And this law, compared to the very famous Patriot Act of the United States, and under this clause, FBI could compel any entity, including telecom or internet providers, to hand over data that they seem is relevant to terrorist investigation. And in fact, this very legal pathway was used by NSA to justify bulk metadata collection from the internet providers. And this story has been known to us, that has been revealed through Edward Snowden back in 2013. Next on, we have 2017 cybersecurity law, which introduced mandatory data localization. So anything important classification of data collected in China must be stored within its borders. And state agencies are authorized to conduct security reviews of foreign tech products, infrastructure, and their ideological compliance with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. And the US analog here is not a single statute, but a series of executive actions and regulatory reviews, most notably Executive Order 13913. And under this framework, so it was used to restrict Huawei and TikTok, citing the matter of national security. And combined with Committee on Foreign Investment, the US has developed its own toolkit to block foreign tech investment from dominating the American market. The rationale in both cases, of course, is national security. But while China uses its law to centralize ideological conformity, the US uses it to prevent strategic dependency. That's the main difference. Last but not least is data security law, which prohibits the transfer of critical data outside of China without prior government approval. So the clearest demonstration of this law is seen in Didi Changxing case, or Didi Global, of 2021. It is one of the largest ride-sharing companies in the market. And with its record-breaking IPO, again listed in New York Stock Exchange as a foreign company, Chinese regulators launched cybersecurity probe. They pulled Didi from app stores, and essentially they wiped out $20 billion of market value. So everything is functioning through the so-called cybersecurity review. Essentially, it means that any company holding data on over 1 million users must pass national security audit before listing overseas. So in the US, analog here is 2018 Cloud Act, which authorizes the US law enforcement to compel companies like Google, and Microsoft to provide data, even if it's stored outside of the United States, effectively allowing to bypass local privacy laws. And certainly, as response, many nations, including China and Russia, passed laws requiring, obligating data to be stored domestically, limiting this very foreign access. So while China is about locking information in, the US is about pulling information out. Both systems reveal how governments are asserting territorial sovereignty over data, treating it as geopolitical asset rather than any neutral commodity. So, ladies and gentlemen, we often talk about surveillance in terms of visible technologies, cameras, data centers, tracking devices. But the Chinese government has already begun moving beyond what we see. This is where authoritarianism shifts from physical domination to cognitive conquest. China currently operates more than half of the world's active surveillance cameras, where one camera observes around two citizens, such were the recent statistics. And these cameras are equipped with facial recognition, gait recognition, emotion detection, and thermal imaging. Such capabilities are deployed and being advanced to detect microexpressions, behavioral abnormalities that might indicate noncompliance or agitation. So, what we're seeing here is a profound shift from traditional surveillance to cognitive control. The Department of Defense report highlights how China is integrating brain monitoring technologies like EEG centers, not just in military systems, but also in civilian workplaces to track attention, stress levels, and productivity. This part is of a broader strategy known as intelligentized warfare, where the line between combat advantage and domestic governance begins to blur. However, the United States is not that far behind. Multiple US defense companies are pushing and promoting brain computer interfaces into battlefield operations, which are successfully turning neural signals into strategic assets. And these technologies move from war zones into classrooms, corporations, and find their ways to integrate themselves into everyday life. And that's where ethical stakes rise dramatically. According to 2024 Neural Rights Foundation report, most companies can already access users' neural data with virtually no legal limits. And while this scenario might sound to us like science fiction, everything in this day and age is information. And once collected, it can be used either for greater good or greater not so good of the world. One of the most dangerous aspects of China's digital dictatorship is the fusion of state power and market innovation. What we might consider private companies in the West or Europe, private companies are in reality an extension of the CCP power structure. The cyber administration of China functions as the digital arm of the party, and its directive states that platforms use their algorithms to promote positive energy, suppress disorder, and uphold socialist values, quote, quote, quote. But influence here isn't limited to regulation. The CCP is a holder of the so-called golden shares, and in other words, Chinese government acquires small ownership in private companies so that the state knowledge about people's affairs is very much multifaceted across the board. And while the stakes in companies might be as low as 1%, they grant significant business influence, voting rights, veto rights to determine a lot of policies within business operations of these companies. And while the architecture might be different than liberal democracies, the convergence of public power and private platforms is unmistakable. In the United States, technology companies increasingly shape and are being shaped the strategic by the strategic priorities of the state, and often through partnerships or often through classified programs. In this very paradigm, tech firms are no longer governed by policy, they in fact help rewrite it. So, what we're witnessing here is the rise of surveillance, manipulation of data, and the scorn of human behavior. It is not chaos, it is strategy. It follows a doctrine that at the Institute of World Politics we speak a lot about of unrestricted warfare. And its message is chillingly clear. You do not need bombs to win a war. You don't need to invade a country to control it. You infiltrate its system, its banks, courts, media. You rewrite the rules without anyone noticing. Because in this kind of warfare, the battlefield is not land, air, or sea. The battlefield is the human mind, and the weapons are not missiles. They're narratives pushed through laws and algorithms. And to respond, we must expand what we think and what's our understanding of defense. And here I turn to Dr. John Lanchowski, the founder of the Institute of World Politics. In his book, Full Spectrum Diplomacy, he argues that American strategy must go beyond traditional diplomacy by incorporating strategic communication, moral clarity, and knowledge of cultural intelligence. But in today's world, where data replaces doctrines and influence becomes algorithmic, we must evolve his vision into something new. So, something that I started this presentation with, full spectrum conflict, this is the stage that we find ourselves today, quite frankly. But how can we replace the conflict part in the equation? And well, here are the few recommendations to include: strengthening civil society to resist narrative warfare or behavioral manipulation, promoting ethical tech governments to protect rights and human dignity, and supporting decentralized open source tools that prevent centralization of this very political control. And in Dr. Luchowski's spirit, this is not just a diplomatic response. It is a moral and strategic imperative to defend human dignity wherever it is quietly under siege. Up until now, I've focused primarily on China because certainly it provides the most formalized and revealing case study of digital dictatorship. But it's important to be clear, China did not invent these tools, it perfected them. And now the logic of digital dictatorship is spreading, and not only in closed regimes, but in democracies of the world as well. So we're witnessing a pattern that repeats across different political systems, that surveillance is normalized in the name of convenience, data sharing is justified under the banner of national security, tech trends are militarizing international relations, and all of it is essentially carried under the language of protection, when in reality it builds a new layer of control that creates a much greater distance between citizens and their governments. And this is not just a foreign threat, it is a global shift. And as more people begin to recognize the scale of surveillance and manipulation, the result will not be calm. But because but when the battlefield is perception, the most powerful weapon is not force. It is the ability to recognize truth, even when it's buried beneath the layer of censorship or curated delusion. And allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude this presentation with the following words: the rise never sets on those who know the truth. And this phrase my father has taught me for many years, and I believe that it defines the challenge that we face today. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to get in contact with me. You can take a picture of the email. But now I will come back and turn to the main session. Here we go. If the audience has any question, I'm ready to take.
Okay, do we have any questions? Okay, it seems it was enough and everyone knows everything. So thank you for the talk. Please a round of applause for her. She will hear it. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, have a good one. Bye.
Bye.